Hey guys, here today showing you how to replace the front brake pads and rotors on a 2006 Cadillac SRX. See, looks like this. This is the first generation SRX. Should work from 2003 through 2009, I believe, is when this stopped. This is a V8 model. The V6 model should be pretty much the same. See here, we're gonna have to take off the caliper. Then we're gonna have to take off the rotor, and I got some new rotors and new brake pads to put on. Tools for this you'll need is well, obviously you need to take the wheel off, jack it up, get down some jack stands like I have it here, and then you'll need a flathead screwdriver, a piston tool to squeeze the pistons back in, either a flathead or a pry bar. You'll need a 12mm socket here and a ratchet, and you'll also need an 18mm socket as well as a T30 Torx. That's to take the screw off that's holding the rotor on, that guy right there. So usually I just do this myself. Today I'm gonna have my sons help me out, so yeah, we'll just get right into it, trying to get this caliper off. All right,
the first thing you need to do is take off these two 12mm bolts right here and here, and if this starts spinning, use a 17mm wrench. And spin this right. Yeah, it's too hard. Okay.
We'll hold the bottom of the caliper down for you. There you go. After he gets the bolts out, we'll go on ahead and just set the caliper down on top of the rotor. You never want to just hang the caliper down by the brake line, it'll damage it. So you can either use some zip ties to hold it up, or a bungee cord, or whatever you'd like.
After you take off the caliper, go ahead and take off these brake pads. Right here. There you go. There's one. There's two.
Just like that. So, okay, so the next step you want to do is to compress the pistons in the calipers. You see there's two pistons right here. They need to get pushed back into the caliper, so that way you can have clearance for the new brake pads. You can go on ahead and use a tool like this. Pretty much you put the old brake pad back in there, you'll stick this in there, and you'll spin this around, and that'll put pressure on the pad and push the pistons back in. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that up so you can see it. Okay, so this is how you set up your brake tool. I got the old brake pad in there like this, and you pretty much just spin this in, and as you do that, it'll push the brake pistons back in. For the sake of time, I'm not going to sit here and have you watch me spin this back in, but you get how to set it up. There's different kind of tools. This one you can buy for like $9 at O'Reilly or AutoZone or anywhere. There's other ones on Amazon that you can use that have a ratchet, but they all do the same thing. So that's pretty much all you need to do. Okay, now that you got the pistons pressed back into the caliper, the next step you need to do, well, if you're just replacing the brake pads, you're good. You can just slide the new pads back into place now, and then put the caliper back on, and you're good to go. However, if you're replacing the rotors, you need to remove this. Excuse me. You need to remove this brake caliper deal that's in the front here, and to do that, if you look behind the rotors here, you'll see that there's two 18mm screws. There's one right here, and there's one right there. Those are 18mm. You need to loosen or remove them completely, and then this whole caliper bracket will come off. That will allow you to slide the rotor off. So So we're going ahead and go ahead and do that now.
It's all right.
Now I'm gonna use my power tool because it's just faster. If you don't have one, you can use a breaker bar. That'd be the easiest way to take one off. So we'll go on ahead and do that, or I'll do that now. Like I said, then the brake caliper bracket will just come off like so, and you can just set it down to the side. Alright, so when you guys have the caliper bracket off, these things have sliding pins. You need to pull them out like this and wipe the grease off of them if there is grease on them. And then just get yourself some multi-purpose grease. It doesn't matter, bearing grease, and just put some more back on here. You don't need to slather it in grease, just a little bit of grease, something like that will work. And then you just go on ahead and slide it back into the bracket like so. Make sure that the little dust cap is over, and you just do that for the top and bottom, and that's all you do. So put some on this. This is so that the piston, or excuse me, the brake caliper can slide around correctly. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to take the rotor off. If you look closely at the rotor, there's usually a retaining screw right here in the middle. This one is a T30 Torx bit. Looks something like this. I don't know if it'll focus on there, but let me see if I can get it to focus. Looks like that, kind of looks like a star bit. People call it a star bit. But you need to use a T30 and break these things loose. Now, it's going to be kind of hard to do this with a ratchet. I highly suggest getting something called an impact driver, which impact driver looks like this. Let me show you, I think I got one in here somewhere. This thing right here is an impact driver. Pretty much you stick a bit in here and you hammer the end of it, and that sharp jolt will break the bolt loose, because sometimes these things get really stuck in there or get rusted in there and they're hard to get out. But in my case, I have an impact drill, so mine will break loose pretty easily. So we'll go on ahead and take the bolt off, or the screw out. Just like so. And normally the rotor should just fall off, but chances are yours is probably stuck to the hub like this is, because it usually gets rusted around the circle. So if you have some WD-40, you can use that. Or the best way, honestly, is to grab yourself a hammer and hit the face of the rotor. You could hit it up here, that's fine. I like to try and hit it close to here, because if you hit it out here, it kind of puts more, sideways leverage on the wheel bearings, and that kind of ruins them. So if you can get a hammer and hit it in here, that'd be best. If not, try to hit it as close to the center of the rotor as possible. If you're not very accurate with your hammer strikes, going ahead and grab the lug nuts and put them back on here. That way you just don't smoke a thread by accident and then you ruin the threads. So, but yeah, I'll just go on ahead and grab a hammer, because this one's not going to come off, and I'll show you how to hit it off. So you want to hit it here or here, and this should come off. And you see, just like that, it came loose. So we can go on ahead and just take the rotor off completely, and I'm going ahead and put the new one on. So let me grab the new one. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is to get the new rotor on. As you'll notice, the rotor has other holes in it aside from the lug studs, like this hole right here, and the other little hole on the other side, and there's one on the top. Where that retaining screw is, you need to make sure that that retaining screw hole lines up with the screw hole on the back. So when you put the new rotor on, just make sure that you have one of those lined up there. And then you go on ahead and just tighten the screw back up, and that'll tighten the rotor back into place. Just like so. And now I'll just show you how to put the caliper bracket back on, put the caliper and the new pads on, and then we're good to go. Alright, got the rotor on. Now we can just go on ahead and put the caliper bracket back on. If you remember, that's held on with two 18mm screws. Like so. Just slide these guys into place and put that on. Again, I'll be using my drill. If you don't have a drill, that's fine. It's 18mm. Like so. I do always like to check it again though with the correct wrench to make sure I have them tight enough. Yep. And the next thing you need to do is to grab yourself your new brake pads and just take and slide them back into position like that. Like so. Then the last thing you'll do is grab the caliper and just slide it back into position over the brake pads and get the 12mm bolts that you took out and just screw them back into position like so. And you go ahead and tighten those guys up. If these things spin down here on the bottom, the pins, remember you can use a 17mm wrench to kind of hold them in place. Like that. You don't need to tighten them too much because they are aluminum, you'll strip them. And that's it. Obviously the other side is going to be exactly the same. There's no need for me to show you how to do the other side. But if you have any comments or questions, please ask them in the comment section below. If it's your first time to the channel, I appreciate you stopping by. If you guys could hit the like button and share this with your buddies. And feel free to give me a subscribe on the way out. I appreciate it. Also, thanks to my kids for helping me out. As you can see, anybody can do this. It's not a hard job, so save yourself some money and try to do it on your own. Alright, see you guys next time.